Hi guys, welcome back. The Shivalinga that they found inside the Gyanvapi Mosque has made a lot of people nervous in India. When things like this happen in India, people panic and they start to justify Islam and these Muslim rulers and to rationalize their intentions. People even say stuff like the Gyanvapi Mosque was not built over a demolished temple. It was just that a temple was converted into a mosque. This has also been the case about Ram Mandir in Ayodhya, and how many riots had to happen and how many lives had to be lost just because we could not accept the reality of India's past. People are either too scared to talk about it. There is apparently a Stockholm Syndrome situation happening now, or they are too adamant not to talk about this. Either way, this issue has to be discussed in the open. And in this video, we are going to look at some of the temples and Hindu sites that were destroyed, ransacked or looted by the Islamic invaders. So throughout the era that is classified as medieval era, Hindu, Buddhist and Jaina sites were destroyed by Islamic rulers repeatedly over the course of centuries. They were either completely destroyed or looted and plundered and left to its ruins, or they were converted into mosques by using the parts of the demolished temples, or by building a dome on top of the standing structure. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list. There are thousands of Hindu, Buddhist and Jaina sites destroyed by Islamic invaders through the course of history. And it has happened not just in India, but it has happened all across South Asia. Bamiyan Buddha is a great example of such a site. Bamiyan Buddha, the once tallest statue of Buddha, was targeted for 500 years by Islamic crusaders until it was completely destroyed. When we take the case of India, it is documented that there are over 1,800 Muslim structures that were constructed over existing temples or using materials from destroyed temples. Let's look at some of them. I don't have to repeat the entire history of Ram Mandir and the Babri Masjid Mosque in Ayodhya. If you are interested, there are some videos that I've made on that issue. You can find them there. Also, there are some articles that I wrote on the same matter, which the links for which you will find in the description. So Ayodhya, which is considered to be the birthplace of Bhagavan Rama, was completely destroyed and a mosque was built on top of that holy place by Babur. If you are wondering why another culture would do that, the reason is very evident. The Indic philosophies, that means the Hindu, Buddhist, Jaina and the other six darshanas that we followed and practiced in the subcontinent, were considered to be paganism and idolatry by the Muslim invaders. We were called the Kafirs or the Dhimmis, and idol worship and paganism were considered to be grave sins in Islam. Therefore, these places of idol worship and paganism had to be cleansed and purified by these Islamic rulers by building mosques on top of them or by completely destroying them. So this is what was happening throughout these centuries, as something that today's historian for some reason wants to hide from us. If this is not cultural erasure, I don't know what is. Today, Babri Masjid no longer exists in Ram Janmabhoomi. A new temple is made for Ram Lalla, Little Rama, and the Babri Masjid Mosque has been relocated. The history of Somnath temple is gruesome. Here is a short glimpse of what happened in Somnath temple. In 1024, Muhammad of Ghazni raided Gujarat, plundering the Somnath temple and breaking its Jyotirlinga. During the 1299 invasion of Gujarat, Alauddin Khilji's army ransacked the Somnath temple. The idol was broken and carried to Delhi, where it was thrown to be trampled under the feet of Muslims. In 1395, the temple was destroyed for the third time by Jafar Khan. Lastly, during the reign of Aurangzeb, the temple was destroyed in 1665. Because Somnath temple was the abode of one of the 12 Jyotirlingas in Hindu tradition, people still flocked to the temple even after its repeated destruction. So Aurangzeb had to ban worship in this site, and in 1702 he ordered that if Hindus revived worship there, he would completely demolish the temple. After independence, Vallabhbhai Patel took the initiative to reconstruct the temple there by relocating the mosque that was standing there at the time. It is also interesting to note that Nehru was not in support of the reconstruction of this temple. Vallabhbhai Patel, with a small group, was able to build a trust to begin the construction of Somnath temple. Qutub Minar also has a very controversial history behind it. The speculation about the Minar or the tower is still an ongoing one, where nobody has a clear answer on who built it and when, and what was the purpose of that structure. But there is a mosque, the Quwwatul Islam Mosque, and it literally means the Tower of Victory. This mosque, commissioned by Qutb Aibak, is actually built upon the ruins of 27 Hindu and Jaina temples. The entire Qutub Minar complex looks like a Hindu structure. By Hindu, I mean the pre-Islamic architecture, the Vedic, Jaina and Buddha architecture. So, which are the 27 temples that they raised to build this mosque? Were they the temple that were existing in that complex, or were they taken from somewhere else? Doesn't this mean that the entire Qutub Minar complex is actually built upon the ruins of a once prolific cultural center which consisted of Hindu, Jaina and Buddha traditions? Isn't this another example of a pre-Islamic site destroyed, plundered and then converted into an Islamic site? The Iron Pillar has another very interesting history behind it. Chandragupta II built the Iron Pillar in the 5th century, dedicating it to Lord Vishnu. The original position of the Iron Temple is considered to be Udaygiri Hills. Qutb Aibak placed it here as a trophy for the Quwwatul Islam Mosque. How wonderful, isn't it? And that is not the only pillar that has been uprooted and placed somewhere else by the Islamic rulers. Their iron pillar in the Lat Masjid in Madhya Pradesh. This pillar is fragmented into 4 pieces, but if it was intact, it would probably be the largest iron pillar in the world. Interestingly enough, Lat Masjid is also made from Hindu and Jaina temples. Great. This video is already turning into a very painful one. 2 Ashoka pillars from the Magadha Empire was removed by Firoz Shah Tughlaq in the 13th century and moved to Delhi, again as trophies. The shady truth about Qutub Minar and how all these structures came to be is yet to be investigated fully. But it is a fact that there is a lot of pre-Islamic and Hindu influences in this place that we now call Qutub Minar. This is an annal of history that completely changed my opinion on Islam and Islamic rule in India. Nalanda University is a monastic university in Magadha, Bihar, established by the Guptan Empire. Most people understand that Nalanda University is a Buddhist site, but it actually is an Indic site where there was Buddhist, Jainist, Hindu, Vedic and many other traditions taught and practiced there. It taught 6 major schools of Buddhism, Yogacara and Sarvastivada. It also taught grammar, medicine, logic and maths. Nalanda University was destroyed in 1193 by Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar Khilji, who was a Turkish invader. According to a historical source, a Buddhist scholar of Ayurveda treated Bhaktiyar Khilji for an illness which was deemed incurable by his court hakims. Disturbed by the fact that an Indian scholar knew more than the hakims of his own court, Khilji decided to destroy all roots of knowledge and Ayurveda in this country. So, what did he do? Minhaj-e-Siraj wrote about the attack Khilji unleashed in Nalanda University. Muhammadi Bhaktiyar captured the fortress and acquired great booty. The greater number of the inhabitants of that place were Brahmins, and the whole of those Brahmins had their heads shaven. They were all slain. There were a great number of books there, and when all these books came under the observation of Muslims, they summoned a number of Hindus that they might give them information respecting the import of those books, but the whole of the Hindus had been killed. On becoming acquainted with the contents of those books, it was found that the whole of that fortress and city was a college, and in the Hindu tongue they call a college Bihar. Thousands of monks were burnt alive and thousands beheaded as Khilji tried his best to uproot Buddhism and plant Islam by the sword. The burning of the library continued for several months, and the smoke from the burning manuscripts hung for days like a dark pall over the low hills. Her library that had almost 9 billion texts were burned by Khilji, either because he did not understand what was going on in there or because he didn't like what was going on in there. With this insanity, Khilji was able to destroy the temples, monasteries and centers of learning at Nalanda and the whole of northern India. This led to the demise of ancient Indian scientific thought in mathematics, astronomy, alchemy and anatomy. This is just a cursory note. If you want to learn more about the destruction of Nalanda University, I will leave the link below. Hampi is yet another remnant of brutal invasions and cruelties done by Muslim rulers, a history that we rarely study about. Hampi is a medieval city of Vijayanagara Empire located in Karnataka. Vijayanagara was the stronghold of Hinduism in this era, where it flourished without the influence of Islam, because the north was overrun by the Mughal rulers, and there were many sultanates ruling all over the Deccan region. Vijayanagara was one of the only standing Hindu kingdoms at that time. The sultanates attacked Vijayanagara constantly, and they were able to ward them off for some time. And then the sultanates of Deccan came together to wage war against the Vijayanagara king Aliyaram Raya. In the Battle of Talikota, sultanates in Deccan defeated Vijayanagara Empire. The Hindu kings and chieftains who survived fled, and the city of Vijayanagara was plundered and destroyed for the next 5 months. Hampi is called the Angkor Wat of India. It is one of the largest standing Hindu structures in the world, even in its ruins. What this place held and what its significance was, we will never know. The sheer volume of architecture, mathematics, philosophy, language, art, music and so on are astounding. But it was all lost to us just because of the plundering and destruction done by the Islamic rulers. I cannot go on about the destruction of my own culture, but then Kaashi is one of the greatest examples of how Islamic rulers wanted to plunder and destroy the pre-Islamic traditions in the subcontinent. The Gyanvapi Mosque is just one example of a Hindu temple or a Hindu site destroyed and then converted into a mosque. As per sources, there were over 1,000 temples in Kaashi, and there is no major religious sanctuary in the city of Benares that predates the time of Aurangzeb in the 17th century. Only one temple complex which was saved from destruction is at Kandwa because of its location in the countryside. That means out of 1,000 temples, just one temple was left alone by the Islamic rulers in this timeless holy site. The feat at Gyanvapi Mosque was done by Aurangzeb. So the plunder starts with Muhammad Ghori. Then from Khilji to Tughlaq to Akbar and Aurangzeb, the destruction and plunder went on. Thousands of Hindus were massacred and forced to convert under the threat of sword. Over 1,000 ancient temples were destroyed. So immense was the quantity of booty that was taken away that it took 1,400 camels to carry it. The Atala Devi Mandir became Atala Mosque, which was converted by Khilji. The Darahara Mosque was built upon Bindu Madhava temple. The Alangiri Mosque was built upon Krittivaseshwara temple. The Kaashi Vishveshwara was demolished by Aurangzeb, which is another of the 12 Jyotirlingas in India. In this way, the number of temples converted, either destroyed or converted into mosques, just goes on and on. Out of about 1,000 temples that were in this holy site, very few remain in their original state. And when it comes to Kashi Vishwanath temple, one of the holiest sites in Hindu traditions, the Kashi Vishwanath temple was built and demolished 3 times in the course of these centuries. Its temple was demolished in 12th century by Muhammad Ghori. It was rebuilt in the 13th century. And in the mid 15th century, Muhammad Shah Sharki destroyed it. It was rebuilt in 1585, and then it was razed to the ground by Aurangzeb. These places still attracted Hindu pilgrims in huge numbers, and of course there was a lot of wars that happened in the name of religion, in the name, and there were a lot of wars and massacres and genocides that happened in the name of faith in the subcontinent. Aurangzeb was so annoyed by the fact that people still kept coming. He wanted to change the name of Kaashi to Muhammadabad. What if that had happened? This is once again a very brief account of what happened in Kaashi. If you're interested to know more about it, I will once again leave an article in the description. Please check it out. Most people argue that there was harmony between Islamic rule and the Hindus in the medieval era. Maybe there were some good Muslim rulers, I'm not denying that. But how is harmony possible when universities are destroyed, people are killed in masses, spiritual and philosophical centers are completely demolished, and they are forced to abandon these great sites? Jizya was imposed on all of these people just to live in their own land. Do you feel that this is a history that represents harmony between cultures? These were not scattered incidents or a part of wars and invasions. This was a war on culture and erasure of culture. It was forced Islamification of Hinduism, Buddhism and Indian traditions. So much more cruel than what British and the West ever did to us. When a foreign culture does cruelty like this, the invaders cannot become the part of that culture. They wanted an Islamic state in India, and that's what they tried to build. And that is also something that they failed in ultimately. Please share in the comments if you think that I missed an important Hindu site or a temple. Please subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Share this video with others and follow me on my Instagram and Facebook pages. The links are given in the description. Thank you and have a great time.